I very much doubt these attacks are going to suddenly stop one day and there'll be a magic remedy. But most importantly, any advice I'd give to anyone is our laptops and computing technology is the most secure end-user computing technology on the planet.
Who inspires you?
One person, Barack Obama.
Okay. Because he buys HP? I have asked that question all year and I've never heard an answer quite like that. What is the future of AI in the workplace in the UK?
The ability to scan someone on an MRI and give instant outcomes. The ability to x-ray someone and not wait 4 hours in reception to work out whether you've broken your wrist or not. You know, that software will be able to analyze that forensically.
We've seen big tech giants in the UK cut jobs over the last year, 18 months because of they're switching to AI. It's not all good news.
Well, you know, let's look at it in a different way. Okay.
What if we look at it that way first, then we can look at it. Okay,
we'll look at it your way. Everyone was poised at work at 11:59, thinking that the world would never be the same.
Hello and welcome to another edition of City AM's Boardroom Uncovered with me, Jon Robinson. My guest for this episode is the boss of HP in Northern Europe, Neil Sawyer. Sawyer is concerned the UK's AI strategy could be repeating the mistakes of the dot-com boom, and this country is at risk of inflating its own AI bubble. So what does he think should be done about it? Without any further delay, let's dive in. Well, Neil, thank you very much for coming on Boardroom Uncovered. It's great to have you here.
Nice to meet you, John.
I suppose I want to start with this. Two things. First thing, this is your third stint at HP. What have they got on you to make you keep on coming back?
Well, that's a good question. I started at HP when I was still at university, in fact, so I did my placement year there. Thankfully, over the years, they've got nothing on me, but I love the culture, I love the people, got lots of great friends there, so feel very comfortable in my surroundings.
Yeah, that's a very diplomatic answer.
It is,
yeah,
it is, but it's true.
You won't get out what they've got on you later on in the episode, I think, maybe. The second thing is, surprisingly, a large number of people, when I've said, oh, Neil from HP is coming on the show, they've gone, oh, as in the source. No, I didn't realise that HP had such a brand rivalry with HP Source in the UK, but maybe you do.
Well, it clearly is unique to the UK, yes, I've had that a few times over the years, in fact, including from some close relatives. So, and I still think they think I work for the HP Source company. I've never corrected them, however, but yes, that sometimes can be a bit of a misunderstanding, but I don't know how long HP Source has been around for.
Probably a bit longer than HP, I think.
Well, we're coming up for 90 years, so it could be a close run call.
You've got a hot take when it comes to the UK's AI strategy, haven't you?
I've been involved in technology for a quarter of a century from a work perspective, and there's been so much change, evolution in terms of how we use tech in the workplace and at home. That goes without saying, but we're really at a tipping point now in terms of the introduction of AI, in terms of many processes and things that we do at work and of course at home. And we're all more familiar with it than we were even a year ago. And of course, it's very important to build the infrastructure and make sure that we have a global place around the table within the UK. But of course, building data centers and infrastructure and cloud environments is one part of AI. But the other side of it, for me, which I find really fascinating, is how is the use of generative AI going to be used in the workplace, in many different industries, but also how will it be applied in the home? And, that's more than just building sheds and infrastructure. That's about the application of that infrastructure and how it will be used in a day-to-day role or a specific industry like health or education.
So what's the UK getting wrong?
They're not getting anything wrong per se, but I think my observation is that there's a heavy degree of focus, understandably, in terms of construction and making sure that we put jobs into tech. But and I love that. I think I really value it. But actually, I think there needs to be more emphasis on how AI is going to make a difference in key industries and with workers that carry out specific professions, rather than the emphasis around the cloud and building that infrastructure. There is a byproduct to that, and I think that byproduct is the thing that will fuel the economy long term in terms of giving millions of jobs and thousands of opportunities to many different businesses around the country.
So is the UK focusing on building data centres too much then? Do you think the speed needs to be brought down a peg or two?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think that actually in many ways we've got some catching up to do compared to other countries within Europe and of course the United States. And one very important word that seems to be more important than ever before is sovereignty. So making sure that the infrastructure is there and it can be retained within the premises of the United Kingdom is really, really important. And we need to make sure we accelerate that investment because that is absolutely required for the infrastructure moving forwards. But we need to make sure we pivot as well and talk about how the use cases of AI will change industries and improve outcomes for people that are using the NHS, improve productivity, and of course provide jobs for the future. They just won't be simply put in the cloud. That will be a fundamental part of it, but the devices themselves and the applications will form part of the future economy, that's for sure.
Is the UK too far behind other countries, other European countries, the US, to be able to catch up and actually win this race?
No, not at all, because I mean, we saw only a few weeks ago the government's investment, that has seen an extraordinary amount of money going into the infrastructure through the likes of NVIDIA. You've seen the investments from Microsoft and Google. The amazing thing about the British economy is the quality of technical knowledge and IT resource that is renowned around the world. So being able to marry that resource and that knowledge that we are the subject matter experts of AI and cybersecurity globally, and marrying that up with having the right infrastructure just provides an amazing platform for us moving forwards as a country, but also as a contributor to the global economy.
It's a positive narrative that doesn't really get talked about that much. There's a lot of negativity around at the moment with the economy and things like that. But that strength that Britain has and has always had to some degree in terms of tech doesn't really get talked about as much as maybe it should have been.
Well, I'd agree with that. I mean, I'll give you some very good examples. HP's first ever research and development labs outside of America was in Bristol, England. That was our cybersecurity labs. They're still there today, and we've expanded that out into Cambridge. Speaking of Cambridge, which has such an amazing knowledge and centre of expertise around the development of microprocessors and everything that goes into technology today, every single form of technology, there's intellectual properties and mindsets, minds that are in Cambridge that will last the test of time in terms of any global competitive market or economy. And I think the other areas, of course, as it becomes more important, is defence security as well. And we are a global knowledge base for all of the complex technical requirements that go into the defence sector. So we should be really, really proud as a country and as a technology sector of what we have to offer on a global stage.
It seems that 2025 has been the year of the cyber attack. Household names, British icons, M&S, Harrods, Co-op, Jaguar Land Rover, to name just a few, have all been hit with major cyber incidents this year. From HP's point of view, what are you doing to help shore up your defences that are used by so many companies across the country?
Yeah, well, it's a great point. A big part of what we do is corporate technology. Many people, hopefully listening to this podcast, are HP tech users. But needless to say that cybersecurity has been around for many, many decades. As I mentioned, it's a big part of HP's proposition, both in the home and from a corporate perspective. We've invested very, very heavily in terms of our own infrastructure and our own proposition. That's why our end user compute, our laptops and computing technology is the most secure end user computing technology on the planet. That's because of the BIOS level security that we offer all of our corporate customers. So it goes well beyond the software layer, right into the component security as well. And that's really important because, of course, cyber attacks are more sophisticated than they've ever been before. And if I marry the conversation around AI, well, these threats are always going to be there. But, we work very closely with our clients to make sure that we provide, the most secure end user compute framework that we can do. We also look at it from a supply chain perspective as well. Many of our clients operate in sensitive environments, and they want to be assured that from the point of production and shipment through to the point of delivery and activation, then those devices have not been tampered with, and we have those competencies in all of our technology today. So we're working very hard alongside our partners, including Microsoft, who of course feature significantly, particularly in the corporate space as well as the home user space as well.
Oh, these cyber attacks have been going on for years. Absolutely correct. It's not the case that they've just started up this year, but there seems to be more sophisticated attacks that have got through the defenses. Why do you think that is this year?
Well, I don't know the exact answer, because I'm not privy to all of the reasons why one attack has happened over another. But I think that there are many organisations out there that have very complex IT systems, and some of those IT systems are outsourced. Some of them speak to each other. And oftentimes you can have a company's IT systems that's talking to the IT systems of an entirely separate company. So there's always vulnerabilities that you've got to manage as a company. And everyone works very hard to make sure that data and information, particularly public information and private information, is secured as best as possible. But look, it goes without saying that I very much doubt these attacks are going to suddenly stop one day and there'll be a magic remedy. But most importantly, any advice I'd give to anyone is to make sure that you're ahead of the game rather than reacting to something that happens. And oftentimes we can see that playing out in the public eye.
Well, they're not going to stop anytime soon. Are they going to increase?
Well, I think all of the facts around AI and producing attacks and adjusting those attacks are likely to carry more variables. People will react very, very quickly, make adjustments. So that the reality is that of course we're likely to see an increase. The population increases. There are more people connected for work and at home than ever before, and people generally have more access to connected devices. So, I think there's a case of inevitability, and the point that we need to make sure that we are more focused than we ever have been on the security of people and businesses in our country.
Okay. Neil, I've got some quick fire questions for you now. Are you ready?
Well, it depends what they are.
What was your first job?
First job, I qualified as a chef, actually, when I left school. So, yes, went to catering school and worked in a number of different bars and restaurants around Rutland, where I grew up.
Yeah, I was wondering when we were going to get Rutland in the podcast. From Uppingham, of course. We'll grow up a bit in Rutland, in Uppingham. We can just take the rest of the pod to just talk about Rutland, I think. But we should move on, because this is quick fire questions.
I love Rutland, so and I know you share the same passion.
Absolutely. Who inspires you?
One person, Barack Obama.
Okay. Because he buys HP? I
haven't checked with him recently, but he's makes a lot of sense, speaks a lot of sense, and, generally brings people together in how he comes across. I was watching a couple of videos with him last week. So, yes, he's the first person that springs to mind.
You can't use Barack Obama for the next question, but if you had to appoint a celebrity to your board, who would it be and why?
Very good question. Can I be slightly out there?
Of course. You're out there as much as you want.
I would invite Chris Martin from Coldplay.
Okay. Big Coldplay fan?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
But again, somebody that unites people, has an opinion on the world, but, has a global connection and, also is a great entertainer. So I thought that would be good to have on any board.
You say he unites people. If you put a camera on a couple of people, you might be having an affair at one of your concerts. But
quite possibly, but I'll never be in that position. So I'm safe.
What's the best thing about your job?
People. I'm very lucky to have made some great friends over the years, and both within my company, but also externally. We're an industry that's built on relationships, and I've definitely thrived in that world.
And if you're your prime minister for the day, Neil, what would you do?
Goodness, lots of things, of course. World peace and bringing people out of poverty is very important.
Easy stuff.
Easy stuff, yes. But if it was just for the day, I would ban wheelie bags.
Why?
Okay, I need to explain this.
You really do need to explain this.
On aircraft, then one of the things that delays a lot of flights is just the intensity of wheelie bags that turn up on a plane. And therefore, if everyone just bought a regular bag and put it in the hold, there wouldn't ever be any delays of planes. So I just think if we ban the wheelie bag, then the world will just work a lot more efficiently from a transport perspective.
I have asked that question all year, and I've never heard an answer quite like that.
Well, I slightly suspected that there might be a couple of quick fire questions, and I thought, well, how can I make sure that I mix it up a little bit?
I mean, fair play. Okay. Well, what about, you're Prime Minister for the day, but it's going to be the budget the next day. What would you order Rachel Reeves to put in that red box?
Well, I think a lot of our big retail partners talk about just making it fair in terms of employment contracts and the taxation accessibility to run a business with the flexibility that's needed in particularly bricks and mortar retail, where there's a lot of changes to market conditions, consumer confidence, and I think, having spoken to a few of our major retailers, they definitely want to make sure that there's flexibility in terms of how they can operate, and that will make them more nimble. It will deliver better prices to their customers. So if from an economic point of view, that would be definitely something I push for alongside the wheelie bags.
Oh, like the two priorities for the day.
Yes, yeah. Well, you only gave me one, so if the day was a bit longer than normal, then we'd definitely get two in.
Of course, it's not just tech and AI that you're involved in as a company. You've got the printing element as well. How is that doing? It just seems that printing seems to be declining year on year, and AI and tech is rising. Is that correct?
Well, the answer around print is that we are multidisciplined. So we are 1 out of 2 households in the country use HP technology. From a printing point of view, there are many more printers in the United Kingdom and around the world, post COVID, because it was a big part of printing homework and working from home. And, it's our job to make sure that people are given reasons to print, whether it be for educational purposes. We see an uptick in mail order and an online business, which produces, shipping labels. We've got gig economies where, we need to make sure that, people are printing documentation that goes with shipments of goods. So there's loads of things that print is still or businesses and industries are still very dependent on when it comes to print. But also we're very diverse in terms of our printing outputs. We've got office printing technology, we've got packaging and label printing technology, and we've got digital printing, which prints very bespoke and personalized content as well. So we are very well covered in terms of the many different types of print outputs that you see. The other bit that HP also does is that we're very focused around meeting room technology and collaboration. So we acquired a business called Poly a few years ago. That's incorporated now into HP. So everything that we do from a digital collaboration perspective is a big feature of what we do as a business at HP, but also how we serve our clients both at home and also in the workplace.
I want to get back to AI. What is the future of AI in the workplace in the UK?
Good question. I'll give you some real life answers because I'm not going to sort of talk into the theory of it because I think listeners would prefer how to use it properly rather than the theory of it all. But at HP we call it the future of work strategy, and we firmly believe that. The coupling of data center and cloud provision, which we spoke about earlier, will be married with the on-device AI capability. So that is making sure that you can process stuff at your desk or on the move, as well as querying data center large language models. So to give this into practice, then if I take the NHS. Everyone has a strong feeling towards healthcare in this country, but we have a growing population and an aging population, and therefore there's always going to be the need to process things faster, cure illnesses, recognize problems quicker. And if you take a lot of the advanced computing that will be installed in PCs and laptops in hospitals, then the ability to scan someone on an MRI and give instant outcomes, the ability to X-ray someone and not wait 4 hours in reception to work out whether you've broken your wrist or not. That software will be able to analyze that forensically and at pace to process people faster. The other thing, interestingly, is a little bit about me personally. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them, are neurologically diverse, and therefore we handle different educational requirements for them. And I think that if you take education and schools, the pressures on schools, then by having personal AI support assistants on devices that's going to help facilitate teaching staff in the classroom and give a greater level of attention and care to all pupils in classrooms is all goodness. Now, there's a lot of people that work in the city here that will be listening. The ability to process complex spreadsheets, analytical data, coming up with summaries, even simple things like asking your trusty Excel spreadsheet to produce a graphical representation in PowerPoint, all used to be very labor intensive. And, actually through Microsoft Copilot and, these facilities, it helps process basic functions faster. And I think, of course, everyone loves receiving lots of emails all day, every day. We all do.
That's the job, isn't it? You answer emails.
Well, it is the job. Sometimes I do joke about that, but it's an important feature in every office worker's day-to-day responsibilities. And I think just by having those AI software tools on your device, processing that information, drafting stuff up based on your behaviors and how you've written stuff in the past, that's going to save 10, 20, 30% of your time, and everyone will welcome that, because it means you can do more things proactively, engage with clients more, and have more time to think about the future.
So that's that positive. You just listed quite a few positive elements of AI being integrated into the workplace, but the other side of it is job losses. We've seen big tech giants in the UK, and obviously UK headquartered companies as well, cut jobs over the last year, 18 months because of they're switching to AI. It's not all good news.
Well, let's look at it in a different way. Okay.
Why don't we look at it that way first, then we can look at it a different way.
We'll look at it your way. But this is the point that I was making earlier, is that if everything's centered around cloud and infrastructure and building, then there needs to be a greater emphasis on creating jobs and using AI and creating those jobs, those businesses for the future. And the more we invest in the technology outcome side, as opposed to looking at the technology input side, which is the infrastructure, if we invest more as a nation into the outcomes, you'll create more jobs, more businesses, more prosperity. So, there'll be more vacancies out there. There'll be new businesses. There'll be new use cases that need to be applied. There will be industries that need a greater level of protection. And all of these skills are applicable and transferable easily. So, I do feel that when we look at things in a traditional sense, then of course there's an element of summarizing it with gloom. But let's look at the next 10, 20 and 30 years, because that's what we also have to do as an industry, is make sure we equip people who are children today and make sure that we're building career paths for them tomorrow. And I think AI does play a huge feature in that. And by the way, I think AI will make the workplace more accessible to a lot of people as well. So, I think there's more positives than there are economic negatives to it.
When you started in tech a few decades ago, do you ever think you'd be sitting here talking about AI in the way that you have been? I mean, you starting on sort of Microsoft 98 or something?
98, it probably was around 90. No, I think it was. I think we'd gone through 2000, so we'd passed, the great date, which was the 1st of January 2000, which of course, everyone was poised at work at 11:59, thinking that the world would never be the same. And look, it's changed a lot over that time.
It's an awful lot, almost unrecognizable, the level of tech in a workplace.
Yeah, and look, I started in a world where Wi-Fi was a rarity, and you could often flip the keyboard of your laptop, and a 2 CD-ROM was sat underneath the keyboard, and it had a pop-out mouse. So you
might have to explain to the younger listeners what a CD-ROM and a mouse is.
Yes, well, or a floppy disk. So even a few of those were knocking around. But the industry has changed a great deal. But I think the one thing that hasn't changed is authenticity. That's probably more of a value than has ever been before. Integrity matters because it lasts a long time, and it's an invaluable currency, really. And I think importantly, evolution. Keeping up with the times and adapting. Your business to the technological advances that are there. I was watching or reading in the newspaper yesterday that the workplace now is seeing a rampant adoption of AI tools in the office and corporate environments, and workers are not waiting around for their employers to make decisions around AI solutions. Workers are looking at how to make themselves more efficient and improve their productivity. So it's more important than ever before that businesses embrace AI and make sure that they deliver the best outcomes for their people.
I think there's a solid drinking game in how many times we've mentioned the word AI in this episode.
Yeah. Well, goodness, I mean, we never mentioned it 12, 18 months ago. I mean, it was something that sprang up very, very quickly, and of course, a big topic of conversation. But for me, it's a technology input, and our job as an industry, but as enterprise, it's about making sure we use it to get better outcomes.
Neil, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, John.